Step 5, Uncovering Those Hidden Needs. My name is Jackie Perkins and I'm really glad you've joined us again today. So back to our iceberg. Remember last time I mentioned that we've got these 5 sets of needs: the stated need, the real need, the unstated need, the delight need, and the secret need. And today we're going to really go into those unstated needs. So the unstated needs are here underneath the waterline. And remember I spoke about Dr. David Rock, and Dr. David Rock has a model, the SCARF model, where he talks about the fact that every single one of us have these 5 needs that if they're met will trigger a helpful response, but if they're not met they will trigger a harmful response. So that means if we don't uncover these needs or we don't meet these needs when we're engaging with our manager or our client or another team, we could be triggering a threat response all the time, so that they see this conversation as harmful rather than helpful. When we meet these needs, we actually trigger an opportunity response, and our client or our manager or our team goes, oh, I want to have this conversation with you. It's helpful to me. So what on earth am I talking about? Let's take these 5 needs from the SCARF model and unpack them. So the first one is status, beginning with an S. Now, I want to just be very careful with this word, because people, when they think of status, they get completely the wrong idea. Status is the need to feel valued, the need to be seen as competent, the need to be seen as relevant and significant. So if we do or say anything that makes our client or our manager or our team feel incompetent or irrelevant, it will trigger a threat response. Now, what does a threat response look like? A threat response above the waterline, the behavior you will see will either be one of silence or one of violence. Now, I stole these terminologies from a great book called Crucial Conversations. If this whets your appetite, go and have a look at that book. Let's just quickly unpack silence. If someone goes into silence, what will you see above the waterline? What behavior will you see? Yeah, they'll disengage. They'll stop asking questions. They might even go, yeah, sure, whatever you want. They might start taking sickies. They might not come to work. They might come late, or just do what you say, but not with a commitment or heart and soul. Or they might even sabotage. Violence, they'll tell you, I don't like this. I think that's wrong. I think that's unfair. I think you're trying to actually sell me a crock of rubbish here. Actually, I think you're overcharging me. I think there's no value in what you're saying. They'll put it out there. So I want us just to think about these 2 reactions when we don't meet these 5 SCARF needs. So let's come back to our SCARF model. The second need is our need for certainty. So C for certainty. So what does certainty mean? Certainty is a need for predictability. So if you want to engage in my idea or my service or my product, I'm going to guarantee certain outcomes or certain results, or reassure you what I'm able to do will have a predictable outcome. So I want you to think about how you meet that need for certainty when you're trying to sell that idea or that concept or that product to a client or to whoever your target audience is. The third one is A for autonomy. So what does autonomy mean? Autonomy means that person really has a need for options, a need for choice, a need for independence, a need to have control over the situation. They don't want to be prescribed to or mandated to or dictated to. They want to have input. They want to have a voice and be heard. So you want to be thinking, how do you meet that need for autonomy? By giving them options and giving them input in that conversation. The third one is R for relatedness. Now, this is a strange word, but what it means is that we all have a need for belonging, a need for connection, a need to be accepted. So when you're talking about your concept, your idea, your product or your service, how is that going to make them feel included? How is that going to make them feel connected? How is that going to make them feel that they belong to a club where they feel that they're part of the us and not the them? And the very last one is F, and the F is for fairness. So this is where your target audience wants to know that your idea, your product, your solution is actually going to meet their need for fair treatment or for equitable outcomes, or a big word for me here is transparency. Is what you're selling them transparent, or do you have a hidden agenda? Are you being really clear in the financial arrangements, the contracts that you're discussing? So I want you just to think about this. When someone doesn't have their need for relevance or significance met in terms of status, their need for certainty met in terms of predictable outcomes, their need for autonomy in terms of options and choice, their need for relatedness to connect and belong and be accepted, or their need for fairness in terms of transparency, it's going to trigger a silent or violent response. And I want you to be either preparing for that conversation so that you can uncover those needs and not trigger a silent or violent reaction, or you might see it during the interaction. And I want you to think about how do you meet that need in the interaction so that you can then get over the hump and the hurdle and move on to a solution, a win-win outcome for them. Last little question. If you were to get silence or violence and you had to pick one, which one would you pick? Yep, you're absolutely right, violence. Because you then know what you're dealing with. It's on the table and you have an opportunity to address it. If they go into silence, it's really, really difficult. So a little takeaway for you is I want you to embrace the violence. When you see violence, I want to go, yeah, awesome, fantastic, they've gone into violence. Now I can address it. So have this little picture in your head. Whenever you're engaging with someone, think of them holding a grenade in their hand, and they can either pull that pin off in front of you, violence, or they can go, yep, 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 all good, walk out the door and pull the pin out there, silence. You don't want that happening because they're telling the world about what they don't like about you or your product or service. They're not telling you. So embrace the violence. So if this has whet your appetite, I really would love you to look out for step 6, questioning and listening. All about asking the right questions to uncover this and really tuning in and listening so we can meet our target audience's need. So until next time, be bold, be curious.